Kia ora. Thank you for joining us here today. My name's Nicole, and I'm a clinical leader here for Plunket Line at Whānau Plunket. And I'm a mum to two young tamariki. And I'm joined today by one of our friends here at Haven. So I'll pass over to Sky so she can introduce herself.
Kia ora everyone, my name's Sky and I'm from Haven, or Haven Financial Advisors if you want to use our kind of full brand or full name. I am here today to have a chat about Kiwisaver, a little bit of a chat about budgeting and a little bit of a chat about insurance. I have been with Haven for 12 years and Haven was set up in 2008, and we have around about 65 advisors around the country who are pretty interested and keen and dedicated to helping everyday families understand Kiwisaver and insurance and budgeting in a really educating and empowering way. So we're going to have a conversation today, and throughout the conversation there will be some links popped onto the chat, and you'll be able to click on those links and engage, say that yes, you want to engage with an advisor, and you'll get to have a chat with an advisor and talk about you and your personal situation. But before we get into that, I'll just give you a little bit of a snapshot around who I am. So I'm based in Northland, so I'm based in Whangarei, and I have 3 adult children. So my kids are nearly 27, 25, and 23. So for everyone out there with young babies and young families, I've been there, I've done that, I've weathered that storm. And I kind of wish that some of this information that I now am able to give to other families I had when my children were young, because I definitely didn't have access to this information. So this is kind of part of the reason as to why this is super important to me.
Beautiful. So yeah, like you said, Sky, the things we're going to cover today will be getting the most out of your Kiwisaver, general advice for making your money go a bit further, the value of insurance for young whānau, and how our friends like Sky at Haven can help whānau with personalised financial support. But before we get into all of that, we do have a giveaway. Thanks to Haven, we have an executive size blunt umbrella to give away to one lucky viewer. So to be in the draw to win the umbrella, all you need to do is ask a question to Sky, and Sky will answer that towards the end of the chat. So let's talk family finances. Sky, Kiwisaver is one of those things that operate in the background for most of us, but are you able to explain how to make it work best for us?
Yeah, sure. So often Kiwisaver is a bit of a set and forget. So it's not unusual for us to have just ticked the auto enroll box with an employer, or turned up to the bank to set something up and enrolled in Kiwisaver through that vehicle. Some people have gone online and signed up to a Kiwisaver. What is often missing for people, and there's lots of research to back this up, is that they haven't necessarily understood or made really good decisions about the correct settings for them and their Kiwisaver. So one of the things that happens is that when we take time out of work to be a stay-at-home parent, look after our family for whatever reason, we can often forget that the settings on our Kiwisaver will make a bit of a difference long term, because we will often stop putting money in or contributing to Kiwisaver. And so making sure that your Kiwisaver it's in the right type of fund, and it's with the right type of provider, so that it's still working for you in the background while you're not actively contributing. And that can be a really complex conversation, and it's not something that people can easily get their heads around online, because you can go online and you can fill in some forms and you can get some answers. But what we generally find is that having a chat to an advisor about what's right for you and your family and what you're trying to achieve long term is really important. So as an example, you can be in a conservative fund and you can be in a growth fund. And naturally, most people put themselves in conservative funds if they've not had a chat or understand what the difference is between conservative and growth. Now, growth isn't this big, scary roller coaster and I might lose all of my money, which is what often people think. But if you know that you're not going to use your Kiwisaver for a period of time, if you've already bought your home, or if you're not going to be able to buy a home for 7, 8+ years, or you're 10+ years away from retirement, which most of this audience will be, you can probably afford to make an educated guess around or an educated decision actually around being in a growth or an aggressive fund, so that while you've taken the time out from work and not actively putting money in, it's continuing to gather momentum in the background for you, so that you can at some point in the future use that to help buy a first home, or have that, you know, tidy little nest egg away to support you in retirement years. The other thing that I often see is that families, so whoever's, let's just assume that there's one person working, whoever's working, sometimes they increase their contribution rate. So the minimum contribution rate to Kiwisaver is about 3%. Well, it is 3%. And you can increase that up to 4, 6, 8, or 10%. And what we often see is that families might have the person who's working be putting 4, 6, 8, or 10% in, and the person who's not, and there's a person that's not working that's not putting any money in. And so sometimes we talk to families about actually the person who's working, dial that back down to 3%, and make sure that the person who's not working is still putting in an automatic payment of $5, $10, $15, or $20 a week, or whatever feels right in terms of balancing your budget and your current costs while you've got less income coming into the house. And that can mean that both people, the stay-at-home parent and the working parent, can have their Kiwisaver continue to grow through that period of time. One of the things that that people need to consider is the fact that when we take maternity leave, that does have an impact on our Kiwisaver. We are putting less in, and that does mean that the gap for women's Kiwisaver versus men's Kiwisaver can be as large as 25%.
Wow.
It's massive, right? And so I
Yeah.
think, Nicole, you kind of shared a
Yeah.
little bit of your story around that recently. Are you comfortable to share some of
Yeah,
that for
yeah.
us today?
So I'm nodding away profusely because all of that is relevant to me. So I built our first home when I was pregnant with my first baby. I wasn't eligible to use my Kiwisaver at the time, but my husband was. Since then, I've had 2 lots of maternity leave, and my husband's Kiwisaver is still more than mine now.
Mm. Yeah, it's pretty confronting when you realize
Mm.
some of those implications, right? So I had clients probably about 6 or 7 years ago that I met with, and they had both, similar to you, they'd actually both used their Kiwisaver to purchase their first home. She'd then taken a couple of years off work, in and out of work, and in and out of part-time work to look after their babies, and he'd continued to work, and she was feeling pretty despondent around her Kiwisaver. And so we had a conversation about it. We put her with a provider that she felt really comfortable with, and we put her into a growth aggressive fund. Now, he really liked his provider, and we left him where he was, and we left him in a conservative fund because that's what he felt safe with. And every couple of years, and they both put 4% in. Every couple of years, I go back, because he started with about a $30,000 or $40,000 extra amount of money in his Kiwisaver than she did. And at kind of 5 or 6 years, I remember saying, I got their Kiwisaver balances, and I said, "Can you tell me what's happening?" Now, she had gone up, and her balance was now $70,000 more than his was.
Wow.
Yeah, and they earned similar income simply because we changed the settings on hers and we didn't change the settings on his. And since then, he's recognised that
He's
changing the settings
changed.
on his, yeah,
I can
sometimes it
imagine.
takes people a little bit longer to get to that. But
Mm.
it is really powerful when you understand that you can make some changes with your Kiwisaver, and it will have a long-term impact for you and for your family. So one of the
Mm.
things that I often get asked is, well, what happens to my Kiwisaver if I pass away? Do my children end up with my Kiwisaver? Potentially, yes. Like, it definitely doesn't go back to the government, which is what everyone's kind of fear is around Kiwisaver. The best way to make sure that your Kiwisaver goes exactly where you want it to if you do pass away is to make sure that you have a will in place. And it's wills month, or will kit month. And one of the what's that word? One of the things that we're giving away, for lack of a better word, Nicole, is a link to a free will kit. So I'm not sure if the powers that be that are helping us in the background of this have popped the link in to access a meeting link with us. But basically, if you fill that link in, a couple of things happen. We'll give you access to a will kit. We'll also pop you in the draw to win a $5,000 holiday vouchers, because who doesn't need a holiday when you've got young children? On the proviso that you have a free, no obligation chat to one of our advisors. Now, I'm pretty bossy, and so our advisors are very good at giving you got lots of really good information and helping you make a really good decision. So they do kind of follow the lead of the senior advisors in the business to make sure that New Zealanders get access to lots of really good information around Kiwisaver.
Amazing. I definitely know I'll be signing up.
Yeah, yeah, it's one of those things, and we just don't know it exists, right? Like, everyone has this thing about
Mm,
advisors. They're like, financial advisors, they're only for really wealthy people, right? Like, I can
yeah.
only go and talk to an advisor if I earn $300,000 and I've got $100,000 in my KiwiSaver. It's just not true. Like, we talk to people
Mhm.
who earn $50,000 and have $5,000 in their KiwiSaver, because we're really passionate about making sure that New Zealanders get really good advice around that.
Awesome. Well, shall we move on to budgeting? And I know that you
Yeah,
mentioned
sure.
earlier that you don't like the word budgeting because of all the connotations that can come along with it. But are you able to
Yeah.
talk to us about making our dollars go a little bit further?
Yeah. Just to give you some kind of background around that, whenever someone says to me, Sky, you should have a budget, it makes my stomach hurt, because I'm like, that means I can't spend money, right, Nicole? Like, isn't that what
No
budget
coffee,
means?
no
No
shoe
coffee.
shopping.
Yep. No, nothing interesting for myself or my children. So
Yeah.
I make a really big effort to change the word around that for me, and I encourage people to think about the word in terms of a money plan or a money intention, because what we do with our money today makes a difference in terms of the lifestyle that we're going to be able to have and provide for our families, in the short term and the long term. And it is about, for me, it's about being really intentional around what we're spending our money on. So having a bit of a plan as a family around what's important, and is it can be little things like, do we do smaller gifts for birthdays and Christmas, but have a family experience like going to the zoo instead. It can also be looking for some of those hidden costs. So if you are new to having a baby or children, chances are you've probably got some things like some gym memberships, some apps, some streaming services that we're
Yeah.
probably just not using. Yeah. Last time I checked, I couldn't watch Netflix, Disney, and Neon all at the same time, so I shouldn't be paying for all three of them. And it's really common.
Yeah.
When my children were teenagers, I had a whole stack of these random little $3 or $4 a week or month kind of transactions, and no one would own up to me about what they were. And there was one child who had loaded up, I think it was like a PS3 kind of subscription. Anyway, I cancelled that credit card and all of my direct debit cards, and basically told the bank to issue new cards, because it cancelled all of the subscriptions and all of the things. And then I could make it, and I could consciously decide what I still wanted to pay for. So if you have a little scroll through your bank account and you're like, I don't even know what these things are, I don't even know how to cancel them, figure out how to cancel them, or just get really brutal and cancel
Just
all of your
cancel the whole card.
just cancel the card. You know that those streaming services and everyone else is going to hit you up and say, you've stopped paying, please pay us. And you can decide if you want to link your new card or not to
Mm,
those
that's
types
a
of
really good idea.
expenses. Mm. Yeah, I've done it twice in my lifetime. Once was with teenagers, and then once was, I don't know, about 10, 15 years ago. I just realized that I just had too many things on there, and
Mm,
I was feeling a bit lazy, if I'm honest. And it
yeah.
was just easier just to cancel things. But make no bones around it. Single household income. It's hard in New Zealand, and we are in an economic kind of situation where it is really tricky. And so be gentle on yourselves around that as well, and don't put pressure on yourselves to have a big savings goal if actually it's literally just about paying the bills and keeping your head above water, and know that that passes. That does not last forever. And at some point, you can go back to work, or incomes will change and your situation will change. And one thing I've learned is you never get those years back. and so be okay with not having big savings aspirations and not moving forward with that in the short term to enjoy this time that you've got with your small people, because that's you can't rewind and find that time again.
Mm. I agree.
Mm.
Things that I'd done when I was on maternity leave to allow myself to stay off longer was because before kids, money comes and it goes, and you don't really think too much about it. Then when you're on maternity leave and all of a sudden your maternity pay stops and you go, oh my gosh, like where are we gonna, get this
Mm.
money from? I looked out in the driveway and I thought, I don't need a $30,000 car out there. Like
Yeah.
that's wild. Like
Mm.
I can walk down to the supermarket type of thing. So we ended up
Mm.
actually selling that and purchasing a cheaper car, which meant we had
Mm.
money in the bank so I could have those years with my babies at
Mm.
home.
Mm. Yeah.
Mm.
Best thing you did, right?
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Don't regret it.
Yeah. Nah.
Yeah. And I
No,
think
not at all.
also not comparing yourself, I think is a big one as
Mm.
well, especially with, the likes of social media and everyone flaunts lots of money and different things. It's not realistic, and just making
Mm.
sure that you're living within your means and, that
Mm.
sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And for a long time, I had a single income, and we for a couple of years, I was like, we're not having Christmas presents. We're going to have experiences. And there was a local pools, and I think it was like $70 or $80 to buy a membership so we could go to the pool every day through summer. It was the best thing I ever did. The kids
Mm.
absolutely loved it. And $80 for me was a lot of money to come up with, because a single parent, I wasn't actually working full time. I was working part time. Um, but that summer was beautiful for me. Got to hang out with my children at the pool. They had a lovely time with their friends at the pools, and it was a really easy way of giving them something, but also giving them the gift of my time and that experience of the pools, kind of,
And
3 or 4
And I
times a week.
bet that they talk fondly of those memories versus, a toy that they wouldn't have remembered. Those
Yeah.
experiences matter.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And then another thing that we talked about earlier was the importance of insurance, especially
Mm.
for young whānau. So you're able to give us some advice around insurances?
Yeah, sure. So insurances can feel quite daunting, and we specialise in talking to people about things like life insurance, trauma insurance, income protection, and medical insurance. So they're not pleasant conversations to be having. We also have a team that are dedicated to talking to people about house, car, and contents insurance, although that's a slightly less interesting topic for me, because it's not about people, it's about things. So I'm all about people. But it is really important like, what often happens when we have a young family is we start to feel a little bit vulnerable around our income and around what actually does happen for ourselves or our children if one of us gets really unwell and can't work, or needs to take time off work for a period of time, or just ends up with something like cancer or passing away. And so having a really good conversation with someone who can help kind of work out what the what the best way of having some insurance in place is that fits within your budget can be a really valuable experience. The number one thing that happens when people talk about insurance and put a plan in place is, what they report back to us is, they just suddenly feel better and safer about their situation. That if life does throw them a curveball and they end up with someone really unwell, they've got a little bit of protection there to kind of soften that landing and soften that experience financially. It's not something that people love talking about, and we certainly don't love talking about it either, but we've got really used to having those conversations in a really respectful way with our clients, so that they can help make an educated and empowered decision around what insurance is right for them. And it's a bit of a misconception that often happens, is that we need to spend lots of money on insurance. And in actual fact, we've got clients that spend $10 or $20 a week on insurance, all the way up to $1,000 a month on insurance. And so anywhere in between. And my philosophy is, it's better to have a little bit of insurance than no
Mm.
insurance. Yeah. And there's things like lots of insurance providers that we work. In fact, all of the providers that we work, there's a product called trauma or critical illness or crisis care. Now, the providers that we use will give your children free trauma cover. Now, not all
Wow.
providers do that. So if you go
Mm.
direct to providers and often through a bank provider, that there's no free cover for children. And although we never want to think about our children getting anything, unfortunately it does happen. And so having some free trauma or crisis cover in place, it can be an absolute game changer for families. So it's a sensitive conversation, but
Mm.
we think it's a really important conversation to have alongside Kiwisaver, because they do long term. Kiwisaver and insurance work hand in hand, and we're pretty committed to helping clients get rid of their insurance needs by making sure that
Mm.
Kiwisaver has the right settings and is with the right provider and doing the right thing, so that over time you can be self-insured with your Kiwisaver. So that's kind
Wow.
of our
Yeah.
dual kind of look at insurance and Kiwisaver.
You definitely see how they all work together though, right? Like the KiwiSaver, the will, the insurance, the budgeting, if you can
Yeah.
get them all working together, then
Mm,
you kind of set yourself up. And yeah, we
mm,
don't like talking about, the hard conversations, but it is, I guess, like you're saying, it's about being realistic and,
mm,
especially once you've got peppies and tamariki, it's about,
mm,
doing insurance for them to ensure that
mm.
they've got a roof over their head and if something happens to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know about, give a little pages and make, all of those pages, but um, it's not fun times to be out there publicly acknowledging,
No.
your kind of health crisis and having to raise funds, when potentially a little bit of insurance can just mean that you can just get on with looking after yourselves and your family and getting through this crisis, and surviving it financially takes the stress away.
Yeah, and it's great that there's, different brackets to meet different financial needs so that, it is achievable.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really important that it's accessible
Mm,
for everyone, right? We certainly don't want people to feel like they can't have a conversation about it. And look, lots of people have a
exactly.
conversation about it and don't take our advice. Like they decide that it's just not right, not ready for, it's not the right time for them. But I would
Yeah,
far rather that they had that conversation and make an educated decision around that than just never know what the choices are.
yeah. I see that we've got a question here. So
Mm.
this is um, from Ella. As a stay-at-home mum, what benefits am I eligible for? My son is about to be 1 soon, so I will no longer be eligible for the $73.
Um, that sounds a little bit like benefits or eligibility through IRD or working for families, is probably my read on that question. That is
Yeah.
unfortunately not something that I have any enough knowledge on to give you any kind of correct answer. I'm sorry, Ella. But you definitely can reach out. I would say that reaching out to MSD or Ministry of Social Development or Work and Income New Zealand would be the kind of easiest way of finding that information at a guess, unless you've got some other ideas
Mm.
around that, Nicole.
No, I'd be the same, yeah, pointing them in that direction just to seek some more advice.
Mm.
Yeah. And we've had another question come through. Is internet banking perfect tool to get finances sorted out for when you were having babies?
Internet banking can definitely be a really good tool. I'm a bit of a fan of having multiple bank accounts and having, like $5 into a gift bank account a week or a fortnight, and $5 into a holiday account. So you can definitely use, and you can set up multiple bank accounts on your banking app with generally no cost with most banks, and it's generally fairly easy. Once you've worked out how to do it once, you can do it multiple times. So I do think that using internet banking to kind of give you some guidance can be useful alongside those other tools that we've talked about.
Perfect. And we've had another question come through. Rosie's asked, how often can you change your contribution percentage? And is there any reason why we might be advised to keep consistent with our chosen fund?
Yeah, cool. Great questions, Rosie. So you can change your contribution amount whenever you want to. So you basically change that with your employer, and generally it goes to payroll or HR or whoever that is. So they gather your 3, 4, 6, 8, or 10%, add their 3 or 4%, depending on who you're employed by, and send it to IRD. So you can change that whenever you want. That's kind of an individual decision to be made. The only person that you're kind of having to navigate that with is whoever changes it from payroll. The reason that we're pretty keen to help people be consistent with their chosen funds is that if you can't time the market, and like, I'm not an expert in timing the market, so I'm not going to be able to know exactly when the right time to have an active fund with Kiwisaver or a conservative fund with Kiwisaver is right. And so it is really good to make an educated decision about which fund is best for you in the long term, and encourage people to set and forget for a couple of years or for at least a year, and then come back and revisit that. You revisit it when life changes. So if you're getting close to buying a house, you revisit it. And if you're close to retirement, you revisit it if you've got it set up correctly. If you switch funds a lot, chances are you're going to make some decisions that are the wrong decisions for the market, and you'll end up losing out on some potential gains or locking in some losses, if that kind of makes sense.
It's that long run, hey?
It is definitely a long run. It's a long game. Kiwisaver's a long game.
Yeah. Cool. And then we've had another question come through from Emma. Can you and how easy is it to change Kiwisaver companies that's not with your normal bank?
It's actually pretty straightforward, Emma. And I'm going to be completely biased here and say we make it very straightforward as advisors, because it is our job to help make that very, very quick and very easy for you. It's a straightforward process as long as you've got some support in it. It's not particularly difficult, and our advisors can step you through and hold your hand along the way and make sure that it gets done correctly. Make sure that it's not a challenge or difficult for you.
Cool. And another one, if I make Kiwisaver contributions during paid parental leave, does the IRD also contribute the employer 3% contribution?
No, unfortunately they don't. That would be amazing if they did. But no, you can. What they do though, IRD, is if you put 1,042 into your Kiwisaver a year, they put 25 cents to the dollar in, so you end up with an extra. It's called the Kiwisaver contribution or government contribution. It's an extra $260. So it was, up until recently, you put 1,042, you got 521 from the government. Now it's 1,042 and you get $260. So there is still that, but no, there isn't the 3% extra, unfortunately.
Is it like a guarantee that companies do contribute, like the employment contribution? Is that like they have to do it,
Yeah,
or
definitely. All employers have to. Some have this little sneaky thing they do called salary sacrifice. So essentially they give you a $70,000 income, and if you want to put money into Kiwisaver from that 70,000, you put your 3% in and their 3% in from that 70,000. So it's called a total remuneration package. So there are some employers that do that, rightly or wrongly. That's not a decision for me. But most of my clients and most employers are, the employee does 3% or more, and the business will do 3%. Some employers will do 4%. Some really big employers will do that. That's about retaining and attracting staff. But as a general rule, yes, they have to do the 3%. It's a piece of legislation or a rule, basically.
yeah. And then we've had another one come in that says, what insurance cover would you recommend for a young family on a tight income?
Emma, that's a really broad question. Thank you so much for asking. And I'm gonna I'm going to just say that insurance and Kiwisaver are not one size fits all. So what's right for me or what's right for Nicole will be completely incorrect for you, Emma. So it is about having a conversation with an advisor and making a really clear decision about what's right for you and getting advice that's right for you, not right for your next door neighbor or your sister or whoever else in your world that you're talking to. People say to me all the time, oh, my so-and-so pays this much for their insurance and they've got so much more insurance than me. And I'm like, you don't know enough about their situation to know
Mm,
whether you're comparing apples with apples. So it's a
mm.
very specialized, unique, individualized process.
Yeah, it's that
Otherwise,
tailored
I'd give
experience.
you, yeah, it's not one size fits all. Otherwise, you just buy it online, basically.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I think that leads into Sky, how can whānau get more support?
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Nicole. So like I said, mentioned earlier, you can use this QR code, and I believe the link has been popped in the chat as well. So use that QR code, book yourself a free financial wellbeing check for your family, and we will give you a free will kit. We also will pop you in the draw to win a $5,000 travel voucher. It's free. It's no obligation. We are not intimidating or scary. We are very dedicated to educating and helping you make really good decisions around what's right for you and your family. And it's not one size fits all.
Cool. Awesome. Well, I think that just about wraps up our time together, Sky. So I'd like to thank you so much, Sky, for coming today and sharing your expertise and knowledge with us around finances and making our money work a bit better for us. And I'd like to thank everybody that was watching and commenting. And I hope you all learned something today that you can implement into your own financial decisions.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Nicole. It's been really lovely to be here and really lovely to be able to give something back to Plunkett and the Plunkett whānau that are connected in here, because Plunkett does an amazing job and it's nice to be able to be an extension of that.
Yeah, we're really grateful for the support that Haven gives us as well. And we also have a winner for today's giveaway, which is Rosie. So if Rosie, you
Woohoo!
could just message us to collect your prize.
Well done, Rosie. Good work.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again, Sky, and thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Nicole.